Hello to all of you who are joining us via live stream, and thank you to everybody who is joining me in the Zoom meeting here as well. This is one of our Thursday Zoom meetups, and they're the public-facing part of the vidwheel Creator Network, or VCN. What is the VCN? It's a group that brings together solopreneurs who aspire to take our businesses to the next level using self-produced video. We draw on the experience of the community and of industry experts to guide you through the process of making video and making it work for your business, giving you better reach, efficiency, and growth. If you find this content intriguing, please join us for one of our next events. Today's meeting is part of our programming built around opportunities and planning, which is our January theme here on the VCN. It's a month where we explore the opportunities that video brings to your business and how you can plan to pursue them. So next month, because this will be the last bit of programming for this month, is Live Production Month. Live production is a great way to bring a lot of efficiency to your video content creation. And we kick off that month with a presentation by Garen Parkins called The Secret Edge: How Your Business Can Benefit from Live Production. I'll follow up that presentation on the third Thursday of the month with a similarly themed presentation titled TBD, but you can find those upcoming events and all events tied to the vidwheel Creator Network at events.vidwheel.com. And you can find that link in the description of the live stream. I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat here too. And with that, we'll move on to the main event. I am going to spotlight my feed here so that hopefully everybody can see okay. And we are going to move into the main event. For anybody who does not know me, my name is Neil Carroll. I am the founder of vidwheel LLC, and we put on these educational events twice a month, so feel free to come out. But today we are talking about content planning. And the name of the presentation is Get Your Video Content Plan on Track, a step-by-step guide. So being a step-by-step guide, if you have nothing, you should come out of this meeting with at least a rough plan and a path forward for your video content plan. If you do have something in place, this could be a great way to have a couple of checks to see if you could improve anything. And then we've got a nifty planning template that'll help you plan things and stay on track. As I seem to have a habit of doing, there's a lot in this presentation. So for your convenience, I'm bundling up this presentation that I'm creating now, the slide deck that I'm using, and the slide deck includes a link to the planner template. All of that can be found at content.vidwheel.com. So with that, let's get to it. So here's what we're going to cover: the elements of a quick and simple content plan. Then we're going to look at the system that I use, and I've built out a template for you of that same system. And then, as we've been doing in these presentations, we're going to look at the secret to making it all work. So the plan I'm going to talk about here is a simple one. We're just going to discuss 3 parts of what goes into a basic content plan. First is core ideas. You need to get these nailed down to put together any type of campaign. Don't neglect them. You need them for any of the other pieces. We are going to look at incorporating a funnel into this campaign. And how that can actually make your planning and your content creation easier. And we're going to look at themes as another tool that can help you kind of process a complex plan pretty easily. So first off, core ideas. Number one, you got to know the purpose of your campaign. Do you want to establish a personal brand? Do you want to put butts in seats for a workshop like this one? Do you want to make direct sales? Each of those purposes will have a different plan. So that's first and foremost. Number two, whom are you trying to influence with your campaign? Or as we put it here in the VCN, you probably are looking for extraordinary clients. And if you don't know who this target market is or who your target market should be, we have an exercise for that. You'll see when we get to the template, there's a link to get to the presentation and walkthrough of the exercise that can help you with this. But the long and short is that you have to know who you're talking to as part of your campaign. And third, you do have to get the first two aspects sorted out before you can move on to this, but you need goals. What does your campaign look like? What do things look like when your campaign's complete? Progress goals are great too. How can you be sure that your campaign's on the right track? That's what you're going to want to focus on. These goals should also be SMART. If you're not familiar with the term, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. An example of a SMART goal versus a vaguer goal. A SMART goal would be gain 100 new followers that fit my extraordinary client profile by March 1st versus a more vague and general goal of gain new followers. You can plan for the SMART one. It's harder to plan for the latter version. And once you know your goals, you can work backward to create your plan to build to that goal. So once we get those core pieces down, you can start to look at some of the other tactics I like to use to make my campaign more dialed in and my planning easier. The first thing I want to look at is look at your content as a funnel. Even the most general social media campaign should be leading your audience to some sort of end goal. And there should be elements that engage your audience at each level of the basic funnel. So your basic funnel is an awareness stage. People don't know you, and you want to let them know who you are. A discovery level where people are finding out more about you, and you want to provide relevant information to them. And a decision level where people know who you are, and they're trying to decide if you're the right choice. You want to let them know, hopefully, that you are the right choice and make them make a choice, right? Give them an ask. And another good thing that you can do here is when you have laid out your basic funnel is you can look at your video content, or if you're using this for other content, and see what you already have or what you're planning to create that could fit in these different slots of the funnel. And do you have to make anything additional to fill in the gaps? All of it's important. You need to have people get to the end point. So what are you missing? And I included this image here, which is of my own social media and video funnel that I use on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be complicated. This is just a couple of notes in my planning notebook. It's got the days of the week. It's got the post or video type. And then the numbers here are where it resides in the funnel. Number ones are awareness level. Twos are discovery level. And threes are my asks, which usually involve folks coming to an event like this one. So that is my social media funnel right there. It can be very simple. Another planning tactic that I like to use for any bigger campaign are themes. They can be used to bring the overwhelm of making or posting a piece of content every day down to something a little more manageable. So within the VCN, we have a different theme every month, and that works for our content schedule and what we're trying to kind of convey to people and everything. It might be different for you if you have a shorter sales cycle, or your content's very seasonal. You might want to rotate them in a different way. It might be quarterly rotations of content or something like that. Monthly works well for us. And once you find out what is going to work best for your business, you go ahead and plan around that. The example I have in here is if you do consider planning every post for a full year, it's a bear, right? It's hard to even wrap your head around how many different pieces of video and posts or links or anything like that. But if you think about the same thing, like our theme next month is live production. It doesn't take me long to come up with 2 or 3 ideas for videos that can be tied directly to live production. So it helps kind of narrow your focus, which really helps with planning. It brings a lot of clarity, and that is the power of theming. I'll also say it brings a lot more flexibility to your content plan. You might know you're focusing on subject X in June. The type of content that you need to have on Wednesday in June, because you just figured it out on your funnel. So you have it filled in on your planner, but you don't really have to sweat the details of what the exact content is going to be until closer to the date. So it's just a good way to plan forward. One more bonus for themes. Sorry about that. Is that if you want themes to be, they could be content themselves. In my own case, I usually make some sort of announcement about the new theme that the VCN is going to go through at the beginning of each month. That's one post or one piece of video content down. So that can be very powerful. Okay, we are going to move on to the actual system, the template itself. I'm going to run you through it and I'll demo it for you. But here's what you can expect. As my systems are, it's built out in Trello. There is space to keep your core ideas and core documents so that you can make sure that you stay on track. You can also check on your progress that way. The board can house all of your content ideas and links of your videos for easy access, both for posting and tracking after the fact. And because you can track on this template, you can make adjustments along the way, or if you come back to look at a specific part of the campaign with the intention of making improvements going forward, you're able to do that as well. All right, let's see here. There we go. So this is, sorry, I gotta find my spot in my notes now. All right, here we go. So this is the template. As I mentioned, it's the system that I use myself. And here's a little bit of warning, I guess. It might be more complex than you need. So feel free to pare it down. Like I mentioned, if you don't want all 12 months and you're on a quarterly, you can get rid of a lot of these lists. If you don't care about your, keeping track of platforms or only post to one platform, you don't have to use that functionality. There's things you can leave off or, not utilize if you don't want to. That all said, yeah, I've got a note here. It's all about what serves your own campaign. So keep that in mind when you're going through here, because it can be a little overwhelming potentially. So, all right. So the first thing you want to do when you open this is you want to create your own board from the template. So you see that button there. I'm just going to call it demo, and we'll hit create. It makes that board. It pops you over to that board. This is now yours. So nobody else, right? This isn't public to the world. It exists only within your Trello account. And you can start to edit it from there. So we're going to look at the setup here. You've got the core docs, as I mentioned. These may look familiar to you. We already talked about them earlier in the presentation. And then lists 2 through 13 are all the months, and a lot of them I've got themes on, demo themes as well. If you're doing quarterly or something, you can delete a bunch of those and just kind of cycle through the first few. Yeah, and relabel as necessary. So here's how it works. This first column, you can click through on any of these cards, and you'll have content or the ability to fill in content there. If you're looking for that extraordinary client presentation, it's here in this card. You've got your funnel, and you've got goals. One of the things I did add to these goal cards is they do have a checklist, so you can be sure that you are creating a SMART goal versus a general goal that's harder to track. I'm going to come back to this funnel card for a moment, as I think it helps inform what we're going to talk about next. So you can see I've got the days of the week, and I've got the content types here. And I also included my funnel numbers. So I've got a couple from the first and second stage, and once a week I'm going down to that third stage of the funnel. And those will match up directly with what I'm posting over here, my cards, and where they live on these lists. And if we jump into one of these cards, we'll go into this one here. You can see I've got the title. I started with what the type of content it is, the title of the content. I do have labels here for the platforms that I, in theory, am posting it to. You've got a date here that you can set, toggle on or off, depending on whether you've completed the task. And then here in the description is where I would load the file that I'm planning to save to those social platforms. You also have a space down here, and you probably saw it populating as I was clicking the due date button on and off, but it keeps track of everything that happens to this card. It also gives you a chance to put in notes if you want to make notes about anything different you did with the post or anything that's working really well. And so that's the basic anatomy of a card. And to create a new one, if you're like, all right, I'm going to create another clip, and it's going to be about, let's see, this theme is kittens at chicken barbecue here. Okay. There's your card. If you go in, you can go to labels here, say we're going to put this on YouTube and LinkedIn. Dates here. We can set a date that it's going to go live. We'll make it the 31st. I could paste my link to my my clip here if I wanted to. And then you can just slot it in wherever you need to on your calendar there. And it can really be that easy to start, filling out your schedule. This one, I strategically made a clip that could work on more than one list. If I've decided something else might fit better on the 31st, I could take that card and just bring it on over here to May, which happens to be a theme that would work for it as well. Change the due date to sometime in May. And there you go. I've got a content piece already locked down for a few months out. Let's see. When it's time to post, all you have to do is post away. I will say, do be sure to grab the link of wherever you post wherever you post your content. Now you can see here, I've got a LinkedIn link of where I posted this, I demo posted this particular piece of content. The reason that you do want to grab the link from where you posted is the other feature of this template is that you can pretty easily track these pieces of content that you're putting out there. So you may have noticed some of these other labels that are not platforms. We've got winner, meh, and bombed. That's how I label my pieces of content based on how well each individual piece performs. A winner for me in my own context is a post on LinkedIn that gets a lot of interaction. The yellow or medium is, okay interaction. And if it only gets a few, it goes, it gets the orange label. And you just turn those on or off like anything else, and they get displayed right here. The reason that color coding and tracking can be really useful is I can get eyes on my content pretty quickly and decide whether things are going in the right direction or wrong direction, or I need to change something, mid-campaign. I also, if I were to come back to this, next year, or if you're on the 3-month, quarterly cycle next quarter, you can pretty easily find what worked and, either use similar content or revamp that piece of content that worked and go from there. Sorry. One other thing that we'll look at here is we've got these red divider cards that I put on every list. And you can see I've got a couple of cards below the red divider. The red divider for me is stuff above it is live and stuff below it is not. So you can see these are just demo cards, but they're in theory from last year. So these demo cards from last year, in this fake scenario, maybe I'm looking at them because I want to try to use the same type of content, but I got to figure out why I think this one bombed before I make a new version of it and, put it up in the schedule there. The other thing that I do is if I have a half-baked idea about a podcast clip or anything, and it relates to one of the monthly themes, then I'll pop it in there and just have it below the line. And so that is pretty much how it works. I will show you mine, which hopefully will give an even better idea of like what one could look like. So I've been using this system for a few years, but as you can see, I only really started using it daily and like keeping track as well as I should have this past year. And I only implemented the full tracking setup since last September. But you can see I can easily go through and grab these top performing posts versus the ones I know I just want to leave alone, ones that failed for some reason. And so that is the full demo of the template of the system. You can grab the template here. This is the link. This picture is the link. If you go to content.vidwheel.com. And those are the nuts and bolts of how to put together a simple plan. That planning setup in Trello should help you kind of keep everything on track and know what you're posting going forward. You have the components of the plan, you have access to the system. So just like every time I do these presentations, what's the secret? You got to do it. Your action is what's going to make this go forward, and you got to follow the kind of setup that we have there, or some version that you create yourself, and just kind of push forward. I hope that you take me up on grabbing that template, or maybe use that to inform some system that you're using yourself. But that's a way to go forward and get, keep your video content or whatever content plan you have moving forward. And that's it for Get Your Video Content Plan on Track, a step-by-step guide. Grab this presentation that I'm putting on now, the deck, and a link to the video content planner that I demoed at content.vidwheel.com. And with that, any questions? Let me get myself out of this bubble. Any questions out there? Let me turn off this too. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna try and see. Carolyn, do you have a question there with the post? I just couldn't see the whole thing. All right.
Sorry,
oh, you have Trello cards for each video.
That's what I put on my Trello card description, just to be like, okay, title, what's the hook going to be? But I also put the link in the chat for grabbing that slide deck that we talked about, the content.vidwheel.com. So if people scroll up a little bit, I put it in there.
Right on. Thank you very much, Caroline. And that's a great point. Like something, if you get involved with Trello and start utilizing it, you can create templates so that cards, automatically populate and so on. And Laura, yeah, Trello is free. The basic version is free, and you'd be able to access this template, I believe, for free without any issue. So it's a good piece of software for kind of keeping things organized. I use it. If anybody watched, the IC free sales system was built in Trello as well. And I use it for most of my business systems. So yeah, any other questions from anybody? I'm gonna take a quick look around, see if anybody had any from did that go? Okay. Okay. No other questions. Oh, Don's got his hand up. Let's see it.
For a change, right? How does this integrate with your calendar? So if you've got things that don't, business meetings you hold or sales calls you're going to make, do you also track those in Trello, or are those separate in your calendar? How does that work?
No, I don't. So the way I would utilize this, right, is each one of those is just a post that's going to go out that day. So you could load it up if you have something that you're using to automatically share posts, right? Buffer or something like that. You could do that. Or I always typically just do them manually, right? My 9 to 9:30 most mornings is just putting up a post and doing interaction and so on LinkedIn. So it's just part of that schedule for me. Yeah. But it shouldn't be, it shouldn't interfere too much with your regular schedule. You could kind of do it whenever makes sense for your own personal setup. So all right. Excellent. Okay. Oh, you know what? Okay. Any other questions? And if not, we can I can stop chatting and we can just move into the final comments, because I didn't load up any other questions for myself. I will say, like I said early on in this presentation, I think before we even kind of got into it officially, this same setup you could use for any type of content. I put it in here today, and we talked about video a lot specifically, but social media planning, you probably use it for quite a few things. It's just a good way to kind of get things out in front of you and see the path and set things up like that. So I will say, though, I don't know if this is universal, Don, but let me, you know what? I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it after we get off live stream, because I don't know how it's going to go. But yeah. Any other?
I'll ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Do you have any experience with Hootsuite in terms of content planning? And do you prefer the Trello versus the Hootsuite, and why or why not?
So I think Hootsuite works well. Part of what is more beneficial for like Trello is if we're talking videos specifically. And I think what I shared and what I put in was a drive link. That's usually, if I have prepared video, I would have it up on Drive, or, you know, on my desktop or something like that, right? Somewhere where it's easily accessible. And then I would upload it to, say, LinkedIn as a native video, versus Hootsuite, which Hootsuite is great for scheduling and you know, say you already had it up on YouTube or something, you could schedule a post through Hootsuite and it would share that YouTube link. But at least at my last exposure to Hootsuite, it's not going to take a video file, upload it natively to a platform and kind of go from there. So that would be the big difference, is that you would have some more control that's gained by doing a lot of this, you know, manually. And obviously there's a cost benefit analysis for anyone, whether it should be automated or manual. And a lot of that, when it comes to video, comes down to, do you need to upload the video natively to the platform to make it perform as well, right? So
yeah,
that's a long way around, but Hootsuite's great. I used it for years. It was more when I was posting, you know, just general content, right? Like sharing content that was on the web or sharing a blog post or something. You can really easily line up a whole bunch of links and text posts and share them on a schedule that's built out into the future. So works well for that.
I've also heard that a lot of the social media platforms are starting to have their own scheduling features.
Yep, that is true. So my main platform is LinkedIn. They've started having some scheduling capabilities on their platform. If you, I haven't, you know what, I've not yet tested whether you could use video through that. I would imagine you can, but and Facebook has it. Jennifer says too, which, yeah, that's true. Facebook has it. So you could post things out, say on Monday, you know, you post things out for the week. But if you have everything on that calendar or that system through Trello, you're going to know exactly what you've got to post out for that week versus, yeah, just kind of figuring it out on the fly or anything like that. So, yeah. Yeah, I would think scheduling natively through a platform is typically going to get you better results. Those third-party posters, there was a lot of talk in the past that they got dinged, right? The algorithm didn't like when you posted through Buffer or Hootsuite as much as when you signed on and posted natively. I've heard both sides. I've heard people say that's not true, and I've heard people, continue to perpetuate that. So what's the truth? Nobody knows. You almost have to test yourself, right? And if you do it natively for a couple of weeks and then do it through Hootsuite for a couple of weeks, what's the breakdown? So
for me,
okay.
I think that the consistency is worth the trade-off. I don't know if it gets lower reach, but
yep.
Getting everything scheduled out ahead of time is what allows me to be consistent, and I would rather have that.
Yeah. Well, that's also a great point, right? Like, if you're thinking you're getting bonuses by doing it natively, but you can't get there as often or can't be as consistent, because that's something that's rewarded by algorithms or the social algorithms, or at least in theory as well, is that consistency. So if you sacrifice that, what's the bigger loss, right? So that's a great point, Carroll.
Right. And I was just going to add, I've been looking into this stuff a lot, Neil, as you know, just because I'm trying to find that one location where I can put everything. And there's just isn't a good one. It really isn't. Everything changes so much. And I'm probably just going to end up using the native ones for each service, which stinks. But I think the overall reward of that is going to be, more consistent views and things like that too. So.
Yeah, and there's an argument to be made here. It's something that's, I know a lot of people have different takes on, but there's an argument to be made that, like, I post to LinkedIn, right? And then a lot of stuff will go to YouTube just as like a place to house video. But I could post to Facebook and other places as well, and I don't do it. I focus on what I know I can consistently accomplish, and then the other stuff, like, maybe in the future if I get it so dialed in, that kind of thing. So that is there's some of that, right? Like, that's another one where I'm certainly costing myself there's opportunity costs to not go on those other platforms, but there's, better consistency when I just try to stick to one. So for each person or each business, it's going to be a balance, right? So, all right. So, all right. Very cool. Carolyn, do you want to, what do we, oh yeah, for scheduling it, do you want to, you could say that out loud on the live stream if you want.
I have a video about how I plan my social content and the planner that I use and how I use it. And I've been posting daily on Instagram for about 3 months with this system. And then I repurposed other places because I just happen to love Instagram first. So my YouTube schedule is kind of separate from that, but everything else social media wise goes through this system.
Excellent. And I think it's helpful to have that first place, right? The place you're going to make sure you get to every time, and you go from there. I'll share this on the live stream as well for folks. And that's Carolyn's link that would have just come through via live stream. And thank you for that. Do we have any other questions or anything? Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and do our closing notes here, and we'll go from there. All right. So thank you to everyone who joined us via live stream, and thank you doubly to everybody who came into the Zoom meeting. Anyone who is interested in that next Zoom meetup, please, join us, events.vidwheel.com. We've got Garen Parkins, who's going to talk to us about live production, and that will be the theme through February. So to all of you on the live stream, create confidently. Thank you for joining.